Come closer. The shadows have missed you, and tonight they have a new story to tell. Welcome to Scary Stories After Dark. I woke up buried alive, and the first thing I thought was, God damn it, Madeline. There was no sky, no sound, no air, just pressure. Pressure on my chest, on my ribs, in my throat. The kind of pressure that tells your body this isn't a dream, this is a coffin, and you are absolutely screwed. I couldn't scream. The dirt was already in my mouth, caking my teeth, pressing down against my lips. I tried to kick, but my legs were trapped. My arms, no, my arms were bound at the wrists by something dry and fibrous. Rope? My heart wasn't just pounding, it was slamming. I could feel every panicked beat reverberate in my ears like war drums. How the hell did I get here? My last memory was foggy, blurry like looking through smoke. There was a red curtain, velvet, a stage, Madeline's black painted nails gripping my wrist too tightly, the stench of rosewater and mold, a voice reading aloud in the dark. The boundaries which divide life and death are at best shadowy and vague. I'd rolled my eyes at that part. Some hack actor, I thought. Some cheap midnight horror production trying too hard. Now I was 6 feet under and biting on the last sliver of oxygen I had left. And that's when I heard it, scratching. Not mine, not rats. Something else, something above me. No, someone. My body bucked in a final panic, and I kicked hard enough to knock loose a slat of wood near my foot. I felt a rush of air, just the tiniest bit, but it was enough to choke on. I gasped, and then, light. A hand. Fingers reached down into the grave and grabbed mine. Not gently. It yanked, and I was dragged through the dirt like a corpse being exhumed in reverse, coughing and clawing my way back to the surface as my lungs screamed for mercy. My vision was mud-streaked. The sky above wasn't blue. It was gray, like spoiled milk, churning with heavy clouds and bolts of white lightning that split across the horizon like veins. I stumbled forward, fell to my knees in a cemetery that shouldn't exist. The tombstones were cracked and wrong, chiseled with Latin words I couldn't understand, and stained with something too dark to be mud. Trees twisted in unnatural directions. There were no birds, just the sound of wind that didn't feel like wind. It felt like whispering. And then I saw the man, standing at the edge of the mausoleum, shrouded in black. He wasn't dressed like anyone from 2025. He looked like he'd stepped out of a daguerreotype. High collar, fraying cuffs, a sharp, haunted expression carved into his face. And oh God, I recognized that face. Not from life, from books, from the back of every gothic paperback on my best friend's shelf. Edgar? I rasped, barely able to say it. The man's lips curled into a sad smile. You shouldn't be here. Meanwhile, Madeline sat bolt upright in a 4-poster bed draped in moth-eaten crimson curtains. Her throat was dry, and her head was pounding like someone had recited the bells directly into her skull. The room was ancient and freezing. Candlelight flickered along the walls in hues of gold and blood. Portraits lined the walls, but their eyes were all scratched out. The air stank of mildew, dust, and something faintly metallic. She rubbed her eyes and froze. She was wearing a Victorian nightgown, not her t-shirt, not her diner apron. A full ivory lace nightmare soaked in cold sweat. Layla, she called out, voice sharp. No answer. She scrambled to the window and ripped back the curtains. Her breath hitched. Outside there were no cars, no lights, no city, just a crumbling garden of thorns, and a massive black-winged bird perched on a crooked tree, watching her with glowing eyes. She slammed the window shut and spun toward the door, but it was already creaking open. Layla, if this is some sort of elaborate Poe-themed escape room, I swear to God I will murder you in your sleep. No reply, just the low, rhythmic sound of a heartbeat beneath the floorboards. Madeline pressed her back against the cold wall, one shaky hand gripping the hem of the Victorian nightgown, the other clutching a rusted candlestick she'd found beside the bed. The doorknob had moved, she was sure of it, turned all the way left, then right again, but no one had come in. The air had that kind of static pressure you feel right before something touches you. Her heart hadn't stopped racing since she woke up in this ancient room, and the sound, that sound, thump, 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 echoed faintly from beneath the floorboards like someone had buried a still-beating heart. She stared at the cracked mirror above the vanity. Her reflection wasn't copying her movements, it just stood there, grinning. And then it mouthed something, one word. Usher. Madeline screamed and smashed the candlestick through the mirror. Glass shattered, slicing her knuckles, but she didn't care. Her reflection was gone. Behind the broken glass was a hollow space, a small compartment stuffed with tattered paper, a wilted white rose, and a letter sealed with black wax. She uncurled the brittle parchment. The ink looked wet, even though it had clearly aged 100 years. To the lady who bears my sister's name, the house knows. It remembers, and it does not forgive. Lightning cracked outside. The walls trembled. Suddenly, the candle blew out. Meanwhile, Layla was still in the cemetery, trembling, wind whipping through her hair, shivering in her dirt-smeared hoodie. Her jeans were ripped from the grave escape. Her Converse were soaked with something she refused to identify. And standing across from her was Edgar Allan freaking Poe, looking like he'd just clawed his way out of a mausoleum, and maybe he had. "What the hell is going on?" she gasped, stumbling forward. "Where's Madeline? And where are we?" Poe's eyes were dark pools of sorrow. "You've entered a labyrinth built of ink and madness," he said softly. "We were not meant to see what lies between the pages." Layla blinked. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I'm stuck in a book." Poe shook his head. "Not a book, a reflection of one, a cursed echo." She stared at him. "And why exactly would we be in an echo of a book?" "Because she invoked it," he said. "She read the words." Layla groaned. "Of course she did. She probably said it like it was a dramatic monologue. I told her not to join that weird poetry club on Reddit." He knelt beside a gravestone and began carving a shape into the soil. "There is a way out, but it's not simple. You must survive the stories. They will unravel one by one, tailored to you and your friend. If either of you falters, the story will absorb you. You will become permanent." "I'm sorry, survive the stories?" she snapped. "What kind of Saw escape room literature hell is this?" Poe raised his eyes. "Do you hear the music?" Layla froze. There was music drifting on the wind, faint, ghostly, a waltz, distant strings and piano echoing through the night. She turned, and in the distance, through the fog, a towering Gothic palace loomed. Every window glowed blood red. Masked figures moved within. Laughter, elegant and wrong, drifted into the night air like perfume. The sound made her skin crawl. "That," Poe whispered, "is the mask of the Red Death." Madeline staggered down a dim hallway, now illuminated by flickering red gas lamps. She wasn't in the bedroom anymore. The floor had changed beneath her, marble, the walls bled ivy, and up ahead she saw the ballroom, A masquerade of pale-faced figures twirled and spun in elegant chaos, their movements jerky, unnatural, like broken dolls trying to waltz. She tried to turn back, but the hallway behind her had vanished. All that remained was a door marked Black Room. A hand grabbed her wrist. She spun, heart in her throat. A man in a plague doctor mask stared back. His beak gleamed. His hands were wet. "Welcome," he hissed. "The clock strikes soon. I hope you enjoy your death." He shoved a porcelain mask into her hands and vanished into the crowd. The ballroom reeked of rot and roses. Candlelight danced along warped gold trim and peeling frescoes of angels with empty eye sockets. A grand chandelier made of bones spun slowly overhead, its crystals swaying like severed teardrops. The masked guests moved in unnatural circles, spinning and laughing through cracked lips and hollowed eyes, their voices like wind chimes in a hurricane. Madeline stood at the edge of the chaos, frozen, breath shallow behind her pale porcelain mask. She didn't want to put it on, but something in her bones whispered, "Wear it or die." A clock tower above the ballroom let out a low, thunderous chime. Midnight, one note, just one. Everything stopped, every dancer, every breath. Even the flames flickered still. Then the crowd parted, and he entered. A figure robed in blood-red velvet. No face, no mask, just a void. A towering silhouette that seemed to pull the shadows toward him like gravity. The Red Death. No one acknowledged him. They bowed and resumed their waltz as if nothing had changed. But Madeline saw the truth. Wherever he stepped, the floor beneath him decayed, turning from polished marble into black, cracked earth. He glided, never touching the ground, moving closer, closer toward her. She tried to move, but her feet wouldn't obey. Her shoes had melted into the floor, her arms were heavy, her lungs burned, and beneath the mask she could feel her own face beginning to crack. Like porcelain, she looked down at her hands. They were turning to glass. Meanwhile, Layla was running. The hallway twisted behind her, wooden boards shifting and moaning like ribs of a dying beast. Gas lamps burst overhead as she sprinted, smoke chasing her heels. The sound that followed her wasn't footsteps. It was her heartbeat, and it was getting louder. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. She slammed into a doorway marked The Lodger and tumbled inside. A dark parlor, a creaking rocking chair, a single bulb swinging from the ceiling. No windows, only walls, and one door nailed shut with blood-stained boards. She turned to leave. The door she entered was gone. Something in the shadows whispered, "You shouldn't have heard it." A floorboard squeaked. Layla froze. From the far corner of the room, something moved. It was crawling toward her, slowly, methodically. A man with no eyes and dozens of ears sewn into his chest, twitching, listening. She clutched the iron poker from the fireplace, backing away. The thing groaned. I couldn't take the sound anymore. I had to kill it. I had to silence the beating. Layla's chest tightened. She could still hear her heartbeat. So could he. She dropped to the floor, holding her breath. But it was too late. His head snapped toward her, smiling too wide. "You're loud," he hissed. Back in the ballroom, Madeline screamed, but no sound came out. Her mask had fused to her skin. She could feel it, tight, suffocating, digging into her cheekbones. Her body was stiff, shuddering. The Red Death raised a hand, and the music cut out again. This time, no one moved. The dancers melted, mask first, face second, into puddles of wax and bone. They didn't scream, they just collapsed like marionettes dropped by a bored god. He turned to her. Madeline braced herself until a voice echoed through the walls. "Usher, run." It was Layla. She didn't know how, but she heard her. The chandeliers burst, the ceiling cracked, Madeline turned and ran, barefoot, bleeding, breath ragged, straight through the black room door as it slammed shut behind her with a thunderous boom. Madeline stumbled into a narrow corridor slick with something dark. Ink, blood, her bare feet printing crimson footprints on the black stone. The world shifted. The endless ballroom and the plague doctor specter were gone. Now there was only her and the sound. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. It wasn't her heart, not yet. Up ahead, she saw Layla's silhouette backlit by a single flickering lantern set in a rusty sconce. Relief shattered her fear into shards of adrenaline. "Layla!" she gasped, sprinting forward. Layla spun, and for a moment, Madeline thought she saw tears streak her friend's mascara-dark eyes. They collided in a fierce hug. Madeline's voice cracked. "I heard you run, but I thought I was losing it." Layla swallowed hard, voice trembling. "Your mask, I ripped it off your face in time. But now, do you hear it?" Madeline froze. Under their feet, behind a stout wooden door ahead, the pulsing thump throbbed in the stones. "Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum." "Your heart?" Madeline whispered. Layla shook her head. "No, something else." They exchanged a terrified glance and approached the door together. It was old oak, scarred and swollen as if wet. A tarnished brass knob glowed in the lantern light. On the door, carved in jagged letters, "The Telltale Door." "Of course it is," Madeline muttered, jaw tight. "This story never ends well." Layla's knuckles went white around the lantern. "Do we open it?" Madeline's hand hovered over the knob. The heartbeat accelerated. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. It was faster than a human pulse, panicked, desperate, pleading. "We have to face it," Madeline said, voice small but hard. She twisted the knob. The door swung inward with a groan. They stepped into a room so small it felt like a coffin. The walls bled damp plaster. In the center, a single desk held a quill dripping black ink, an open journal, pages scrawled in spidery handwriting, a skull cracked down the middle, pulsing visibly at the fissure. And from the gap in the skull's bone came the heartbeat. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Layla's breath caught. Oh God. Madeline crept forward. On the journal's page she read, "I hear it. Every night it cries beneath my floorboards. I cannot stand it. It is my own sin beating in my ears." Her stomach twisted. This is the telltale heart, but whose heart is it? The skull convulsed. The quill lifted on its own, writing, "It is yours and hers." Layla lurched back, knocking the lantern over. Flames licked the shattered glass as they both dove for the door, but it snapped shut, trapping them in darkness. Madeline fumbled the journal. Her fingertips found a final line. "Confession is freedom. Rip out the heart to silence the guilt." A cold realization. The thudding wasn't just fear. It was guilt, their guilt, manifested. They had to destroy the skull to escape. With trembling hands, Layla grabbed the candlestick Madeline had brought through the ballroom and swung it at the skull. The crack echoed like a gunshot. The skull splintered and the heartbeat halved, then quartered, then silenced altogether. The walls shuddered. The door flew open. The air changed the second they stepped through the door. The world behind them slammed shut with a gust of wind so cold it sucked the breath from their lungs. And in front of them, a mansion split down the middle like a broken tooth, its massive double doors yawning open without a sound. Gray skies bled down like wet ash. Ivy strangled the crumbling stone walls. Every window was black, but someone was watching from inside. Madeline stood frozen, her hand in Layla's. "You know where we are," she whispered. Layla nodded, teeth clenched. "Usher." Lightning flickered, brief, white, and in that flash, the house blinked. They stepped into the grand hall, where time itself had turned to dust and silence. A red carpet decayed beneath their steps. The wallpaper peeled in long strips like old skin. Portraits lined the walls, dignified men and women, each painted in chilling detail. But all their eyes had been scratched out. A mirror stood at the end of the corridor, taller than any doorframe. Madeline glanced at it and froze. In the reflection, she was alone. "Layla?" Layla stood right beside her in reality, but in the mirror, she was gone. Then the mirror shimmered. Layla appeared, but her reflection was wearing a white funeral dress. They ran, not out, deeper in. The staircase groaned beneath them like it wanted to collapse. As they climbed, thunder cracked outside and a deep, endless moan echoed from the walls. Upstairs, the hallway twisted on itself, floorboards bulging, oil lamps flaring blue and green. "This place isn't haunted," Layla whispered. "It's alive." Madeline's voice was hollow. "It's waiting for us to break." They found the Usher bedroom at the end of the corridor. Inside, 2 identical beds, 2 identical nightgowns, and on the floor, a deep groove like something or someone had been dragged violently across the boards. There was no blood, but the smell. Rot, earth, and something older. Madeline approached the wardrobe and slowly opened it. Inside, a coffin, full size, closed. She reached for the lid. Layla stopped her. "Don't." Too late. The lid creaked open. Inside lay a mirror, just a mirror, but the reflection was moving. 2 women lying in the twin beds, dressed in white, eyes open, mouths stitched shut. One was Madeline. The other wasn't Layla. The ceiling trembled, the bedposts warped. Layla gripped her friend. "It's trying to separate us." Madeline looked dazed. "I feel like I've been here before. What if I am her? What if I'm not me?" "No," Layla said fiercely, cupping her face. "You're you. You're my best friend. You hate black coffee and you cry every time the cat in Homeward Bound almost dies. That's real. This is not." The house roared in fury, a tremor running through the floorboards. A hole opened beneath Madeline's bed. It wasn't a basement, it was a void. Pitch black, endless, whispers leaking out like fog. It pulled at her like gravity. "No!" Layla screamed, grabbing Madeline's arms as her legs were sucked in. "I'm not losing you." But Madeline was slipping. "Let go," she cried. "You'll fall too." "I don't care." Layla gritted her teeth and slammed the broken candlestick into the floor, anchoring herself. She reached with her whole body, dragged Madeline back out just as the hole closed with a deafening snap. They lay there shaking, breathing, alive. The house began to collapse around them. Paintings fell from the walls, windows shattered. The chandelier above burst into flame. They didn't run, they jumped, straight through the second-story window, out into the storm, and landed hard in the dirt as the House of Usher split down the center and crumbled inward like a dying lung. The ground swallowed it whole, and when they looked back, there was nothing there, just an empty field, wet with rain and silence. They didn't speak for hours after the House of Usher collapsed. Rain clung to them like regret. Their clothes were shredded, their hands bruised, their eyes haunted by reflections that weren't theirs. They wandered the field in silence. No sun, no stars, just that sickly, pale light that seemed to come from nowhere. like the world around them was lit by a dying dream. When the raven appeared, it didn't caw. It simply watched, perched atop a bent iron gate that hadn't been there before. Its feathers were pitch black, too black, like light refused to touch it. Its eyes were dull gold, ancient and unblinking. Layla stopped mid-step. You see it too, right? Madeline nodded slowly. I think it's been following us since the cemetery. The raven cocked its head and opened its beak, but it didn't squawk. It spoke in Madeline's voice. Nevermore. She stumbled back, gasping. No, hell no. The raven hopped once, then flew low in a wide arc over them, its wings silent, its shadow too big. And as it passed overhead, they both saw it. A silhouette on the horizon, the raven's hollow theater. Somehow, they were back where it all began. The theater hadn't aged. If anything, it looked newer. Its wood glistening, its red curtains inside glowing faintly, pulsing like a wound. The marquee had changed. Now, starring Madeline and Layla, a final performance. Layla swallowed. I'm not loving the billing. Madeline stared at the doors. I think we're not meant to escape. I think this ends in here. As they pushed through the heavy doors, the raven swooped down and landed on the chandelier above the stage, watching silently. The theater was empty, rows of chairs facing the velvet curtain, dustless, perfect, too perfect. Layla whispered, There's no audience. Madeline replied, We are the performance. Suddenly the lights snapped off and a spotlight blazed down on center stage. A figure stood there, not Poe, not human. A stitched-together thing in a tattered poet's coat, its mouth sewn shut, but its eyes weeping ink. It reached into its chest and pulled out a scroll sealed with blood. Layla stepped forward, dazed. That's a contract. Madeline grabbed her arm. No, it's a curse. The creature unraveled the scroll. Poe's voice echoed across the theater. Those who live through the tales shall carry them forever. The raven shrieked. Suddenly, Madeline doubled over. Her eyes rolled back. She whispered something. Layla caught only fragments. Quoth, the raven. Forevermore, the veil is thinning. And then Madeline's skin started to flicker, like a glitch. She was still standing, but her outline was breaking, like a page folding inward, like she was becoming ink. No, Layla screamed, grabbing her, pulling her away from the spotlight. You're not leaving me. The scroll burst into flames. The creature vanished. The curtain rose, revealing only a door, a single red door, and behind it, a whisper. The story is not yet over. They stepped toward the door together. Madeline's voice was hoarse. I think that thing was trying to bind us here, like the others. Layla glanced at her. Others? Madeline nodded. She pointed to the empty theater seats, and now they weren't empty. Figures filled every row, some missing faces, some made of paper, all watching, former victims of the theater. Layla choked back a sob. Then let's be the first to leave. They opened the door, light, pure white, and a familiar voice waiting for them on the other side. Poe. Poe stood in the white light, or what was left of him. He wasn't solid, not really. His shape shimmered like fog, trying to remember how to be a man. His long coat flared in non-existent wind. His eyes were bottomless, sad, knowing. You've come far, he said. Layla stepped in front of Madeline instinctively. You, You brought us here." Poe's voice was low, regretful. "No, I tried to stop you." Madeline's voice was thin. "Why us?" He looked at her, gaze lingering like he recognized her soul. "Because your name is Madeline," he said softly. "You were always going to be the key." A cold silence fell between them. "What are you talking about?" Layla demanded. Poe turned toward the void behind him. The red door slammed shut with a final hiss. "The Raven's Hollow Theater was built as a tribute," he whispered, "a shrine. My resurrection was attempted long ago by a group of writers who loved me too much. They believed if they performed my works with enough blood, enough fear, I would return." "And it worked," Madeline whispered. "No," his form flickered. "Something else came back instead. Something wearing my stories like skin." Layla's heart pounded. "The creature on stage?" "It is not me. It is the manifestation of the curse, ink and guilt and obsession. And now it wants you, both of you, to keep the stories alive, forever." Madeline shook her head. "But I'm not her. I'm not your Madeline." Poe's expression softened. "No, but you carry her pain, her silence, her tragedy. You bled into the stories the second you stepped through the curtain." Tears welled in Madeline's eyes. "Can we stop it?" Poe looked at them both. "There is only one way." Suddenly, the white fades. They're back inside. But the theater has changed, rotting from the inside out. Chairs decay, lights explode, the raven screeches overhead, the stage burns. In the center stands the story thing, the stitched poet creature, ink dripping from its sleeves, and surrounding it, trapped in rows of seats, every other victim, paper thin, hollow, watching with blank eyes. Poe's voice echoed in their minds. "Burn the pages, end the story." Layla's breath caught. The scroll. Madeline pulled it from her jacket. Somehow it had followed them. It pulsed with blood and ink. The creature hissed, stepping down from the stage. The girls backed toward the center aisle. Fire began to lick the curtains. The chandelier trembled above. "Now, Mad!" Layla screamed. Madeline struck a match. The scroll screamed. Yes, the scroll actually screamed. It curled inward, blackening, the ink turning to steam, as if the paper were alive. The creature shrieked and lunged. The chandelier snapped. It fell in a rain of glass and bone. The entire theater ignited. Layla and Madeline bolted through the burning aisle, jumping over chairs, dodging falling debris as the fire devoured the stories. The paper people burned like dead leaves. The creature chased them, unraveling, limbs bursting into smoke, screaming in Poe's voice, "Nevermore!" And just before the stage collapsed, the girls dove through the front doors and into darkness. Silence. Madeline blinked. The sun was rising. Real sun. Warm, blinding. They were outside. In front of them, a charred field. The theater was gone. 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 1 month later. They never spoke of what they saw. Not out loud. They quit the diner. Moved far away. But sometimes, just sometimes, Madeline finds herself writing poetry she doesn't remember, and Layla still hears the flutter of wings when she tries to sleep. The theater is gone. The stories are over. But if you hear a raven outside your window at night, don't open the curtain.